You'd think being kind would win you respect. But what if it's doing the opposite? Have you ever noticed that the more kindness you show, the less people seem to value it? You lend a helping hand, but instead of gratitude, they expect more. You try to be thoughtful, yet somehow you're ignored. You strive to be a good person, and yet, paradoxically, you become an easy target, the person others take for granted. Or worse, take advantage of Dot, and here's where it gets dangerous. If you don't become aware of what's happening, you'll keep asking yourself, why do people dismiss my needs? Why do they cross my boundaries? Why do I feel invisible, even when I show up with good intentions? But don't worry, in this video, we're going to unpack a hard but empowering truth. Kindness, when given without wisdom, often leads not to connection, but to disrespect. And more importantly, I'll show you how to shift your approach so that your kindness earns respect without having to lose your compassion. Because here's the thing, the problem isn't kindness itself. The real issue is how, and when we offer it. You see, people don't cherish what's handed to them without effort. In today's fast-paced world, kindness is still seen as a virtue, but oddly, when offered too freely and without boundaries, it often loses its value. This is one of the strange paradoxes of human behavior. We tend to devalue what comes too easily, and only respect what requires effort. So when your kindness is constant, automatic, and unearned, it stops feeling like a gift. It starts to feel like a given. And when people feel entitled to your generosity, they stop appreciating it. They stop seeing you. That's why modern Stoicism emphasizes a crucial lesson. Self-respect must come before people-pleasing. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." But being a good person does not mean being a doormat. If you're always available, always saying yes, always prioritizing others at the cost of yourself, people won't admire you for it. They'll assume it's just your nature, and they'll take. Without thought, without thanks, because just like we admire what we work hard to earn, we respect people whose kindness isn't automatic, but intentional. Think about it. Why do people desire luxury items over cheap alternatives? It's not just about quality. It's about scarcity and status. People instinctively value what's rare. The same goes for relationships. If you're endlessly accommodating, constantly stretching yourself to please everyone, people won't see you as special. They'll see you as replaceable. That's why setting boundaries is not a rejection of kindness. It's a declaration that your kindness has value. Seneca, in Letters from a Stoic, reminds us, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." If we desire respect, we must behave in a way that commands it, not just give ourselves away and hope it appears. The truth is simple, but tough. Make your kindness a conscious choice, not a default response, because when you say yes to, often just to avoid disappointing others, you stop being a person in their eyes and become a tool, useful, but not respected. And in the world we live in now, driven by speed, attention, and self-interest, this lesson is more critical than ever. We ended the last section with a hard truth. If your kindness isn't intentional, it becomes invisible. But what happens when that kindness is constantly demanded, especially in today's hyper-connected world? In an age driven by social media validation and endless digital availability, the pressure to be constantly reachable, constantly agreeable, has become overwhelming. Many people have forgotten how to say a simple, powerful word, no. And the result? Burnout, resentment, and, ironically, the loss of real respect from the very people you're trying so hard to please. Here's the truth. When you set boundaries, you send a powerful message that your time, your energy, and your kindness are valuable. You demonstrate that what you give is not automatic, not limitless, but intentional. And that's where modern Stoic wisdom comes in. One of its core principles is this: control what is within your power and let go of what is not. Respect from others begins with self-respect. If you don't value your own boundaries, why would anyone else? Epictetus posed a piercing question worth reflecting on. How long will you wait before you demand the best for yourself? So ask yourself, are you constantly drained trying to meet the expectations of others? Or are you protecting your energy so that your kindness remains a conscious, powerful act of virtue, not a mindless habit or obligation? The practical application of this is simple, but not always easy. Start practicing saying no, because when you're always agreeable, always available, always giving, people begin to assume that's just who you are. They stop asking. They stop appreciating. But when you establish limits, when you choose when and how to give, your kindness maintains its value. It becomes a gift, not a given. Instead of being constantly available, be intentionally present. Let people experience your generosity on your terms. Show them that your time and your presence are not obligations, they're offerings. And no, this does not make you less kind. It makes your kindness more respected. Modern Stoicism teaches that true inner strength lies in balance, the delicate harmony between generosity and self-preservation, between compassion and wisdom, because those who fail to find that balance, they often end up feeling bitter, depleted, and invisible. The world doesn't reward endless self-sacrifice. It rewards those who know their worth and act accordingly. Unchecked kindness, it can be mistaken for weakness. Not because kindness is a flaw, but because the world respects those who know how to pair kindness with boundaries. In today's society, strength is often associated with assertiveness, with the ability to say no clearly and confidently. People who can stand their ground earn more respect than those who constantly yield. And let's be clear, Stoicism doesn't encourage coldness or emotional detachment. It doesn't mean shutting people out or becoming harsh. It means understanding that real kindness cannot cost you your dignity. Because kindness isn't just about how much you give. It's about knowing when to give and when to stand firm. Think about Daniel, the guy everyone saw as the nice one. He was always available, always helpful, always saying yes. In the beginning, people admired his generosity, but over time, that admiration turned into expectation. No one checked if he had the time, No one asked if he had the energy. They simply assumed. And the first time Daniel said no, people got upset. Not because he was rude, but because he broke the pattern. They didn't thank him for all the times he'd helped before. They felt entitled to his kindness because he had never drawn the line. That's what happens when you give without limit. It's not your kindness that changes. It's how people treat it and treat you. Daniel's kindness, in the beginning, was real, generous, and well-intentioned. But because it had no boundaries, it slowly lost its value. It became expected, not appreciated. Now pause for a moment and ask yourself, how many times have you felt your kindness was taken for granted? How often have you said yes just to avoid disappointing someone else, even when it drained you? Have you ever walked away from a situation feeling empty because you gave too much and received nothing in return? This isn't a call to stop being kind, and it certainly isn't an excuse to become cold, selfish, or indifferent. It's a reminder that real kindness must be guided by wisdom and self-respect. Because kindness without intention, without discernment, quickly becomes something people overlook or even exploit. Here's the truth. Strength and kindness are not opposites. They actually depend on each other. If you don't respect yourself, why should anyone else? If you always give in, always say yes, always make yourself available, your kindness won't earn you admiration. It'll make you invisible. A truly kind person is not the one who says yes to everything, but the one who understands the balance between giving and protecting. They're in a peace, someone who knows that saying no when necessary isn't rude. It's a reflection of self-worth, and that kind of person, that's the one people respect. And remember, the lesson here is simple but profound. Don't let your kindness become a burden. Being kind doesn't mean allowing others to take advantage of you. It means cultivating relationships built on mutual respect. If you want your kindness to be valued, start by valuing yourself. People naturally test boundaries. It's human nature. If you let a friend always show up late with no consequence, if you accept extra work from a co-worker without pushing back, if you continue giving in a relationship while your own needs go unmet, what message are you really sending even? If you don't say it out loud, your actions are teaching people how to treat you. Epictetus said it best. You are not to blame for being uneducated, but you are to blame for refusing to learn. And one of the most important lessons in life is this. People will only respect the boundaries that you actually enforce. Stoicism reminds us that while kindness is noble, it must be paired with self-respect. Without that, kindness becomes a quiet signal that you don't value yourself enough to stand your ground. Ever notice how those who set clear expectations, who know their worth and don't tolerate mistreatment, are often the most respected? That's not by accident. Marcus Aurelius, one of the wisest Stoic leaders, understood this deeply. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you constantly think that being kind means being endlessly accommodating, your soul, your identity, will reflect that belief. You won't just act like a doormat, you'll become one. But true Stoic wisdom offers another way. Virtue is about balance. Be kind, yes, but never at the cost of your dignity. Picture a river, strong, steady, and life-giving. It nourishes everything around it, but it also shapes landscapes, carves through stone, and flows on its own terms. That's what real kindness should look like, generous, but firm. Because if people sense you don't have the strength to say no, they'll test to see how far they can go. It's not always because they're unkind. It's because they're human. Even children push limits, not out of malice, but to understand boundaries. So why would adults be any different? The Stoic doesn't resent this reality. They don't become bitter about it. They accept it and act with clarity. Seneca once wrote, "He who does not prevent a crime when he can, encourages it." In the same way, if you don't set limits, if you don't speak up when people cross the line, you are, in a sense, giving silent permission for it to continue. Now, don't misunderstand this as a call to become harsh or unkind. That's not what Stoicism teaches. Stoic lessons emphasize a union of self-control, wisdom, and justice. Yes, be kind, but let that kindness be strong, not fragile. Let it be guided by clarity, not fear. A person who truly embodies Stoicism understands that firmness and compassion aren't opposites. They are allies. So ask yourself honestly, are you kind because it aligns with your values, or because you're afraid of conflict or being disliked? Are you letting others define your worth based on how much you're willing to endure? The answers to these questions matter deeply, because they determine whether your kindness is a strength or a weakness. Kindness should never mean sacrificing your well-being. It should never mean betraying your boundaries just to make others comfortable. The Stoics knew this well. They understood that a life lived with virtue requires wisdom. The wisdom to know when to say yes, and perhaps even, more importantly, when to say no. So the next time someone pushes your limits, remember, your response teaches them exactly how far they can go. What lesson are you giving them? And if you've made it this far into the video, that means you're already on the path. The path to seeing through the illusions of modern kindness and discovering what true respect really means. Comment below with Stoic strength to affirm your commitment to mastering modern Stoicism. But don't go anywhere, because we're just getting to the most crucial part. There's still insight ahead that could completely shift how you view boundaries, respect, and personal power. Stay with me until the end, because this next truth is one that many overlook until it's too late. Here it is. Kindness without boundaries creates imbalance. It often results in unhealthy dynamics that leave one person feeling drained, used, and unappreciated. Modern Stoicism teaches that every relationship needs equilibrium. Give, yes, but without losing yourself. Be generous, but never allow that generosity to be mistaken for weakness. Seneca once said, "He who gives when he is asked has waited too long." This isn't just a clever quote. It's a powerful reminder that generosity, if given excessively or without discernment, can actually backfire. Instead of nurturing mutual respect, it fosters dependency, even entitlement. And when that happens, people stop seeing your kindness as a gift. They start seeing it as something they're owed. The more you give without setting limits, the less your kindness is valued. Eventually, people don't appreciate what you offer. They expect it. And worse, they may grow irritated when you finally say no. What starts as generosity quietly shifts into obligation, and the relationship becomes one-sided, where you carry all the weight, while the other person simply receives. This imbalance shows up everywhere, in friendships, workplaces, even within families. Think of the employee who always agrees to take on extra work without hesitation. At first, they're appreciated, but over time, they become the default, the one expected to carry more, yet often receive the least recognition, or the friend who always listens, always gives advice, always supports, but when they need someone, no one's there. Why? Because no one ever thought to ask if they were okay. Or the partner who keeps compromising to keep the peace. They bend so much, they lose their shape. And one day, they realize their needs were never met because they never insisted they matter. This isn't an argument against kindness. Far from it. Kindness is powerful. But Stoic wisdom shows us that to keep that power, we must pair it with boundaries, intention, and inner strength. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. This powerful Stoic teaching reminds us of something essential. Kindness must be guided by boundaries, not blind obligation. If you give without discernment, if you extend yourself to everyone without pause, your virtue can quietly become a vice. What began as an act of strength morphs into a self-imposed burden. Because a relationship built on silent sacrifice is not a healthy one. True respect, the kind that lasts, is born not from how much you give, but from how clearly you value yourself. People mirror the way you treat yourself. If you treat your time, your energy, and your emotional labor as if they are limitless and cheap, others will treat them that way. When you say yes to every request, when you avoid every confrontation, when you stretch yourself thin just to keep others comfortable, people won't admire that. They'll assume you have nothing better to do. And over time, your kindness won't just be undervalued, it'll be ignored. This is why you must have the courage to sometimes disappoint others, to say no without guilt, to draw a line, not out of malice, but out of self-respect. This doesn't mean becoming cold or shutting down emotionally. It means learning that respect is built through clarity, not through compliance. It's about mutual worth, not one-sided sacrifice. Think of the people you genuinely respect in life. Are they the ones who say yes to everything, or the ones who know when to say no? Real respect is commanded by those who give with purpose, who are generous, but not naive, who hold space for others, but also hold their ground. Modern Stoicism teaches that virtue lies in balance. Too much self-sacrifice, and you lose your stability. Too much self-protection, and you lose connection. The goal is not to eliminate kindness. It's to strengthen it, to protect its value, to give in a way that uplifts both you and others. Because true generosity is not endless giving. It is wise giving, giving to those who appreciate it. And only when that gift does not cost you your dignity. In any relationship, fairness must exist. If your kindness is never returned, if your needs are never acknowledged, then what you're practicing isn't compassion. It's self-neglect. So how do you correct this imbalance? It begins by recognizing your own worth, your time, your energy, your love. These are not infinite resources. They must not be drained by people who only take. True kindness does not mean always saying yes. It means knowing when to say no. It means remembering that being a good person does not mean becoming a doormat. And, in fact, a truly good person protects their kindness so it remains pure, not depleted. In a world that often confuses kindness with weakness, the answer is not to become hardened. It is to become wise. Firm yet fair, generous yet discerning, soft when it matters, and strong when it counts. Kindness should never be a burden. It should be a gift, one that inspires respect, not resentment. But here's a hard truth. Kindness, when not protected, makes you a target, because unfortunately, not everyone moves through the world with good intentions. There are those toxic bosses, manipulative friends, selfish partners who look for people to control, and who better to manipulate than someone who never says no, someone who always puts others first, someone who doesn't question when they're being used, someone who believes that kindness will earn them respect, but instead it earns them exploitation. To those people, your kindness doesn't look like strength. It looks like weakness. An open invitation to push your boundaries, to take without giving, to bend you quietly over time, until you don't even recognize your own needs anymore. But here's the liberating truth. Kindness, when paired with wisdom, is unstoppable. Kindness is not weakness, it's strength. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." That doesn't mean becoming cold or cruel in response to those who take advantage of you. It means being discerning, being wise enough to stay kind, but not naive. Because kindness without wisdom is not a virtue. It's an open door for exploitation. Take the story of Jake. He was a talented designer, deeply respected for his skills, and admired for his generosity. Whenever someone on his team missed a deadline, Jake covered for them. When mistakes were made, Jake fixed them. He stayed late, worked weekends, and made sure every project crossed the finish line. At first, he believed people appreciated his efforts, but soon the truth emerged. His workload had quietly become twice that of everyone else's. His co-workers offloaded their responsibilities onto him, then took the credit. One day, his boss, without even a thank you, asked him to stay late yet again, this time to finish someone else's task. That was Jake's moment of clarity. His kindness wasn't being respected. It was being exploited. So he made a shift. He stopped saying yes to everything. He began prioritizing his own work. He made sure his contributions were visible and valued. Some people resented the change, but those who truly respected him, they adjusted. Because Jake hadn't stopped being kind. He had simply stopped being a target. So ask yourself, are you being kind? Or are you being taken advantage of? Do the people around you appreciate your kindness? Or do they simply expect it? The Stoics teach us to be mindful of who we allow into our inner circle. Kindness must never be confused with weakness. And when it is, we must act, not with bitterness, but with clarity. Epictetus gives us timeless advice. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. Because true kindness is not about pleasing everyone. It's about acting from integrity, with self-respect and wisdom. When you master that balance, when you give from strength, not fear, you naturally command respect. You no longer invite manipulation. The lesson here is simple. Give kindness freely, but never blindly, because the moment you allow yourself to be used, your kindness is no longer kindness. It's self-sacrifice disguised as virtue. And others will sense it. When kindness comes from a place of emotional dependence, from a need to be liked, validated, or accepted, it stops being empowering. Instead, it becomes a silent invitation for people to take advantage. Why? Because people admire emotional independence. They respect those who give without strings attached, not because they need to, but because they choose to, because it aligns with their values, not their insecurities. But if your kindness is rooted in fear, fear of being disliked, left out, or rejected, then it's no longer a gift. It's a bargaining chip, and bargaining chips often backfire. Stoicism teaches us that true peace doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being aligned with our values, our principles, and our sense of inner worth. Marcus Aurelius said it best. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength when you give out of wholeness, not need. When your kindness is a reflection of your inner abundance, people feel it. They may not say it aloud, but deep down, they recognize the difference between genuine virtue and insecure appeasement. And over time, that distinction determines whether they respect you or take you for granted. And when people sense that your kindness stems from emotional dependence, not inner strength, their respect inevitably begins to fade. Take, for instance, a man who endures blatant disrespect from a partner just to keep her around. To an outsider, it might appear as devotion or maybe patience, but in reality, it's a sign of weakness. A person who doesn't set boundaries, who allows mistreatment out of fear of being alone, is not expressing true kindness. They are displaying dependency, and dependency, especially in relationships, is rarely admired. A truly strong individual offers kindness without demanding it in return. They don't beg for attention or tolerate abuse under the mask of loyalty. Epictetus once wrote, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, standing by your values, choosing virtue over popularity takes immense courage. You must be willing to be misunderstood, to remain grounded even when others don't immediately see your worth. But why is it that people tend to respect those who are ready to walk away yet take advantage of those who cling too tightly? It's rooted in human nature. We're wired to desire what feels scarce, to admire what is self-sufficient. So when you're overly kind in hopes of being liked, you unintentionally send a message that your worth is tied to their approval. The moment someone realizes you need them more than they need you, the power shifts. And once that shift happens, it becomes all too easy for them to take you for granted. That's why Stoic philosophy emphasizes self-sufficiency, the ability to stand complete in yourself, no matter what others do or say. If your kindness is authentic, it won't waver in the face of indifference. But if it's a strategy to gain acceptance, it will, sooner or later, betray you. Reflect on this. When was the last time you truly respected someone who lacked self-respect? Compare that to how you feel when you meet someone who stands firm in their beliefs, who doesn't compromise their integrity to fit in. Don't you instinctively admire their strength? Now contrast that with someone who constantly seeks approval, who bends over backward to accommodate everyone, even at the expense of their dignity. Over time, such efforts begin to feel desperate. Their presence becomes predictable, easy to ignore. It's not because kindness is weak. It's because misplaced kindness rooted in fear instead of principle loses its power. As Seneca wisely said, "He who is brave is free." The bravery to assert your boundaries, to stay kind without being submissive, that's true freedom. So ask yourself, is your kindness a choice, or is it a strategy? Are you kind because it reflects who you are, or because you crave to be liked? If it's the latter, it's time to reassess. Kindness must be an expression of strength, not a substitute for self-worth. The Stoics teach us to act according to virtue, to do what is right without obsessing over how others see us. And if people respect your kindness, let it be because they recognize it as a reflection of your inner stability, not because they see an opportunity to take advantage. In the end, the only approval that truly matters is the one you give yourself. So what do you think? Does kindness without self-respect inevitably lead to being taken for granted? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, because while many confuse people-pleasing with kindness, real virtue always comes from strength, not fear. Disrespect doesn't always come in loud, obvious forms. Sometimes it creeps in quietly when people sense that your kindness isn't rooted in strength, but in a silent craving for approval. Because true kindness doesn't beg to be liked. It doesn't exist to fill emotional gaps or secure affection. True kindness is born from strength, not from the fear of being unwanted. When your actions are driven by the hope that others will validate you, your kindness begins to feel less like generosity and more like a transaction. And people notice. They sense when your goodwill is laced with expectation, when it's not truly about them, but about your unspoken need to be accepted. The Stoics taught us a powerful truth. Your worth is not measured by how others perceive you, but by the virtues you choose to live by. Now imagine this. A man constantly praises a woman, gives her expensive gifts, showers her with attention, not because he genuinely wants to, but because he believes this will earn her affection. Does that sound like love, or does it feel like pressure? Instead of feeling flattered, she might feel uncomfortable. Why? Because his generosity isn't unconditional, it's calculated. It's not about her joy, it's about his need for validation. And this isn't limited to romance. It shows up in friendships, workplaces, even families. When kindness becomes emotional bargaining, if I do this, will you like me? it erodes respect. People begin to feel manipulated, not cared for. Think about it. Who earns your admiration more? The one who gives because it's who they are, or the one who gives with a silent hope you'll return the favor? We're naturally drawn to those who are self-sufficient, who give without strings attached, who remain whole with or without applause. Because the moment your worth depends on how others react to your kindness, you surrender your power, and worse, you open yourself to disappointment, even exploitation. That's why Stoicism calls us back to the core. Act from virtue, not reaction. If you choose to be kind because it reflects your values, not because you're hoping to earn something in return. Real strength lies in that kind of self-sufficiency. Take the story of Daniel. He was always the peacemaker, always available, always agreeable. But not because he was noble. He was afraid of rejection, afraid of conflict. He thought that if he was helpful enough, nice enough, pleasing enough, everyone would like him. But they didn't respect him. They took him for granted. They expected his yes, never wondered if he had limits. And when the resentment inside him built up, it was too late. He had trained everyone around him to overlook his needs. The real shift came when Daniel stopped giving to be liked and started giving because it aligned with who he was. Some people drifted away, but those who remained, they respected him not because he was always agreeable, but because he finally showed strength. He gave from abundance, not fear. He no longer tied his worth to anyone's approval. So now it's your turn to ask yourself, is your kindness a reflection of your character, or a subtle strategy? Are you giving because you're full, or because you feel empty? The answer matters more than you think, because true strength is quiet. It's the confidence to give freely, knowing that even if no one applauds, you are whole. And when you stop chasing validation, you stop inviting disrespect. You become someone others admire, not for what you offer them, but for who you are. And respect, unlike approval, can't be demanded. It can only be earned. Respect isn't something you beg for. It's something you earn. Kindness, no matter how virtuous, can quickly become a liability when it's offered blindly, without discernment or boundaries. Have you ever noticed how people often take for granted the things that are freely and endlessly given? This harsh reality doesn't mean that kindness is a flaw, far from it. But when generosity is unchecked, it tends to disrupt the natural balance in relationships. It opens the door to subtle exploitation and, ultimately, a quiet erosion of respect. Why does this happen? Because human nature tends to test boundaries. And when no boundaries are in place, people often assume there are no consequences. This is exactly why the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all emphasized that true kindness must walk hand in hand with self-respect. A virtuous life, they taught, is not just about compassion, but also about balance. The careful dance between giving and guarding, between empathy and firmness. To be truly kind, you must also be wise. You need the clarity to distinguish between moments when your kindness is appreciated and moments when it's being quietly taken for granted. And above all, you must never allow your compassion to erode your dignity. So where does that leave us? How can we continue to be kind, genuinely, wholeheartedly, without opening ourselves up to being walked over? The answer lies in the practical wisdom of modern Stoicism. In the next part of this journey, we'll explore exactly how to command respect without abandoning your kindness. Because true strength doesn't mean becoming cold, and kindness doesn't mean becoming passive. You don't have to say yes to everything. You don't have to be the person who's always available, always accommodating, always depleted. How to command respect without losing your kindness in today's world? Many people confuse kindness with compliance. They think being kind means avoiding conflict, never setting boundaries, and constantly putting others' needs ahead of their own. But as we've seen, unchecked kindness can lead not only to disrespect, but to burnout. So, does this mean you should stop being kind altogether? Of course not. What it means is that your kindness must evolve. It must become intentional, not automatic. Modern Stoicism teaches that real kindness is rooted in purpose, not in the desperate desire to please. Marcus Aurelius, a man revered for his integrity and compassion, never let others dictate his limits. His kindness wasn't born of fear or obligation. It was a conscious, empowered choice. This is the core idea. Kindness should never be a reflex driven by the fear of rejection. Before you offer help or agree to a request, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, am I doing this because I truly want to, or because I'm afraid of disappointing someone? Seneca once wrote, "If you wish to be loved, love. But love, and by extension kindness, must flow freely, not be extracted through guilt, expectation, or subtle pressure." When your kindness becomes a reflection of your values rather than your insecurities, it transforms. It ceases to be appeasement and becomes a form of quiet strength. This is one of the most powerful Stoic truths. Genuine kindness comes not from the desire to be validated, but from the resilience of knowing your worth. In a world where respect is earned through authenticity, not appeasement. The next crucial step is learning this. Saying no does not make you unkind. It makes you wise, especially in today's world, where social obligations, workplace pressures, and personal relationships often blur the line between generosity and self-sacrifice. It's vital to pause and ask, are you giving because it feels right, or because you're afraid of what will happen if you don't? There's a significant difference between someone who helps out of fear and someone who helps from conviction. Consider two leaders. One constantly says yes, afraid that any pushback might create conflict or make them appear uncaring. The other gives support when it truly matters, when it aligns with their values, when it's constructive. Who do you respect more? Naturally, the second, because their kindness isn't driven by insecurity. It's grounded in principle. People are intuitive. They can sense the truth behind your actions. If your kindness is saturated with silent resentment, if you're constantly overextending just to avoid letting others down, then you're not being kind, you're being controlled. The modern Stoic doesn't equate kindness with compliance. Instead, they recognize that real respect is earned through firmness, by being grounded in their decisions, not swayed by every external demand. This doesn't mean turning into a cold, distant figure. Far from it. It means being as generous with your discipline as you are with your kindness. Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And that couldn't be more relevant today. If you allow external expectations to dictate how and when you give, then you're not acting with freedom. You're reacting out of fear. Instead, practice mindful kindness. Give intentionally. Help when it truly resonates with your principles, not when it's socially expected of you. For example, in the workplace, a manager who always bends to every request, hoping to be liked, often ends up overlooked or disrespected. But a leader who sets boundaries, who says yes when it's meaningful and no when it's necessary, earns both respect and trust. This same principle applies to friendships. The friend who says yes to everything, even at the cost of their well-being, slowly sees their kindness devalued. But the friend who gives thoughtfully, who knows when to say no, who helps without losing themselves in the process, that friend is treasured. Why? Because intentional kindness is rare, and what's rare is valuable. As the Stoics remind us, respect doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from being your authentic self. We live in a culture that romanticizes endless self-sacrifice, often mistaking it for virtue. But sacrifice without purpose doesn't lead to admiration. It leads to quiet resentment. And kindness without strength, it breeds dependency, not appreciation. To command respect without losing your kindness. Start making every act of generosity a conscious choice, not a reflexive habit. Train yourself to pause, to check in with your values before you say yes. Let your kindness be an expression of strength, not a reaction to fear. And here's the unexpected truth. When you begin doing this, people will respect you more, not less. They'll see that your kindness is not a tool to gain approval, but a reflection of your inner clarity and self-possession. This is the quiet power of Stoic living. They don't seek to please, and yet they are deeply respected. They don't beg for love, yet they are truly valued. They don't give out of fear, they give from freedom. So remember, say no without needing to explain yourself, because respect and kindness are not opposites. In fact, the people we admire most are those who balance both effortlessly and unapologetically. But beware, the fastest way to lose that respect is to always be available, to always say yes, until you're spread so thin, you forget who you are. When you stretch yourself to thin, always saying yes, always available, something subtle yet profound begins to erode. Your energy, your presence, even your sense of self-worth. As Seneca wisely put it, he who is everywhere is nowhere. Trying to please everyone may feel noble, but in the end, it pleases no one, not even you. The ability to say no, clearly, calmly, and without apology, is one of the most underrated strengths you can ever develop. It's a quiet yet powerful expression of self-respect, and the world notices. People sense it, and they respond. Think back to a moment in your own life. Maybe your boss asked you to stay late again, even though you'd already sacrificed family time or sleep. Or perhaps a friend expected you to drop everything to help with a favor. despite the fact that you were silently overwhelmed yourself. You wanted to decline, but instead you hesitated. You softened the blow with a long explanation, a flimsy excuse, or a nervous laugh. But why? Why do we feel the need to justify taking care of our own well-being? Why does protecting our time or mental health feel like something that needs approval? The truth is, we've been conditioned to believe that saying no makes us selfish or unkind. But in reality, when you uphold your own boundaries, you give others a reason to respect them too. And if you don't, people quickly learn that your time is negotiable, your energy is up for grabs, and your needs will always come last. That's not kindness. That's quiet, constant self-neglect. Consider the story of James, a talented designer known by everyone as the reliable one. At work, his co-workers leaned on him to take on extra assignments. At home, his family expected him to drop everything to help. His friends always knew he'd say yes. He never wanted to disappoint anyone, so he rarely did. But over time, the pride he once felt about being so dependable started to sour. He felt exhausted, used, invisible. The respect he thought he was earning wasn't real. It was conditional. People admired his availability, not his boundaries. They didn't see a strong individual. They saw someone they could take for granted, until one day, something shifted. When his boss asked him, yet again, to take on a last-minute project, James paused and simply said, "I can't do that." No excuses, no elaborate backstory, just a calm, clear boundary. There was a moment of silence. Then, his boss nodded and moved on. It was in that moment James realized something life-changing. He had been giving away his power all along. The fear of saying no had been far worse than the reality of it. When you start saying no with confidence, things will change. Some people, especially those who benefited from your endless yes, may resist, but others will rise to meet your new standard. They'll see you not as difficult, but as someone who values themselves, someone worth respecting. And here's the unexpected gift. The world doesn't fall apart when you say no. Your real friends, the people who truly respect you, they won't walk away. They'll stay, and often admire you more for it. So ask yourself, what would shift in your life if you stopped explaining every refusal? How much energy could you reclaim if you gave your time only to what truly matters? Learning to say no isn't about being cold or distant. It's about being clear. A simple "I can't" or "that doesn't work for me" is enough. You don't need to apologize for taking care of yourself. Because true kindness isn't about giving until you're empty. It's about offering the best version of yourself, and that's only possible when you protect your energy first. So next time you feel that pressure to explain your no, pause. Let your answer stand. And remember, when you respect yourself first, others will follow your lead. Respect thrives not in fear or blind obedience, but in being valued. And if there's one powerful way to ensure that your kindness earns genuine respect, without ever losing its warmth, it's this: reward appreciation, not entitlement. Picture this. You offer someone your time, your help, your patience, and in return, they pause, recognize your effort, and express heartfelt gratitude. They say thank you, they acknowledge your support, and they treat your kindness as something meaningful, not expected. What happens then? You feel energized, motivated. You want to keep giving, not because you're trying to please, but because your kindness is respected. Now flip the script. Imagine offering that same help, but instead of gratitude, you get assumption, no thank you, no recognition, just a silent, looming expectation that you'll keep saying yes, no matter how you're treated. Suddenly, your generosity is no longer a gift, it's a demand. And that's when you need to pause and draw the line. As Marcus Aurelius wisely wrote, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. That wisdom doesn't just apply to how you think about yourself. It also applies to how you allow others to treat you. If you continue to give your kindness to those who feel entitled to it, you don't just reinforce their selfish behavior. You quietly teach yourself that your needs come last. But ask yourself, is that really kindness, or is it self-neglect? To the Stoics, self-respect was non-negotiable. Virtue, justice, and wisdom was central to their philosophy. And wisdom includes knowing when to give and when to step back. Seneca once wrote, "He who is not a good servant will not be a good master." In other words, if you don't command respect through your actions, if you allow others to trample your generosity, you not only lose control of the relationship, you lose control over yourself. A person who truly respects themselves understands this. Kindness is a gift, not a debt. It's something you choose to offer, not something anyone has the right to demand. When people see that you reward appreciation, not entitlement, they start to view your kindness differently. They realize that your generosity is not weakness, it is strength by choice. And within that choice lies your greatest power. Too often, we fear that pulling back, especially from those who take us for granted, will make us seem selfish or rude. But pause and ask yourself, why is it selfish to protect your time? Why is it rude to expect basic respect in return? The truth is, it's not. There's a world of difference between kindness and people-pleasing. Kindness is conscious. It's rooted in strength, awareness, and generosity of spirit. People-pleasing, it comes from fear. The fear of rejection, conflict, or being disliked. So, if someone views your boundaries as unkind, let them. Your duty isn't to appease those who feel entitled to your time and energy. Your duty, as a Stoic, is to live with virtue, wisdom, and self-respect. A truly kind person does not give endlessly, they give wisely. They understand that kindness without boundaries becomes self-sacrifice, and sacrifice without meaning breeds only one thing: resentment. Have you ever felt that? That hollow exhaustion after pouring yourself into someone who never once said thank you. That frustration is not random. It's your inner voice, your reason, telling you something is out of balance. And just like the Stoics taught, balance is everything. So, where do we go from here? Let's explore that together in the next chapter, because you deserve to understand how to protect your energy without hardening your heart. If your kindness has felt like a burden lately, it's time to take control of it. Start by asking yourself some hard but necessary questions. Who truly values what I give? Who sees my kindness as a gift, not an expectation? And who, if I stopped giving, would still respect me? The answers to these questions reveal something crucial. These are the people who are truly worthy of your energy. These are the ones who see you, not just what you can give them. So, what's the takeaway? Do not fear withdrawing your kindness from those who demand it. Do not let guilt shape your boundaries. And above all, don't mistake tolerance for virtue. Practice wise generosity. Give where your efforts are appreciated, and where they're not, let go. Not with bitterness, but with clarity. Choosing who has access to your time and energy is not cruel. It's courageous. It's stoic. It's the kind of inner discipline that shaped history's greatest minds. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, men who taught that self-respect, wisdom, and moral courage must guide our every action. Because in the end, respect is not earned through endless giving. It is earned by the way you hold yourself, the way you honor your own worth. And when you do that, others have no choice but to follow. If you've made it this far, then you're already awakening to one of the hidden truths of modern life, that kindness, without strength, leads to resentment. But with wisdom, it becomes a force that commands deep, lasting respect. Comment below with stoic strength if you're ready to apply this wisdom in your own life, to set new boundaries, to give with intention, and to never again apologize for valuing yourself. But don't stop here. There's still more insight ahead, powerful lessons that will transform the way you approach boundaries, power, and self-worth in every relationship. Stay with us, because generosity, real generosity, is never about depleting yourself for others. It's about giving from a place of stability, not sacrifice. The Stoics knew this well. They taught that to be kind does not mean to be consumed. So here's the truth. If you constantly give without considering your own well-being, you risk becoming a resource in the eyes of others, not a person. And people don't respect resources. They use them. The key to lasting generosity is discernment, helping others while ensuring you don't lose yourself in the process. Too many people believe that being endlessly available earns them respect. But reality often teaches a harsher lesson. The more available you are, the more people take you for granted. This doesn't mean you stop being kind. It means you start being wise. Setting limits is not selfish. It's self-respect in action. And it starts with holding yourself to high standards, not just of kindness, but of how you expect to be treated in return. If someone only reaches out when they need something, but vanishes when you need support, you are not wrong to step back. In fact, stepping back is sometimes the most respectful thing you can do, both for yourself and for the other person. Because when people see that your generosity comes with principles, they will begin to value it, and you, far more. A helpful rule to live by. Give from your abundance, never from your depletion. If giving drains you, if it leaves you feeling hollow, exhausted, or invisible, then something is off. It's time to reassess. Just imagine the employee who always says yes to extra work, hoping to be noticed. They sacrifice weekends, stay late, always go the extra mile, and yet they're passed over for promotions, while those who set boundaries, who protect their time, are seen as leaders. Why does this happen? Because the world respects what is valued and disregards what is always available. A wise person, a modern Stoic, understands this. They know that saying no now allows them to say yes with power later. Let's keep going. The most empowering Stoic insights are still ahead. Say yes with greater impact when it truly matters. The same principle holds true in personal relationships. If you're always the one to fix every problem, to drop everything and step in, even while your own needs go unmet, what are you really teaching others? You're teaching them that your time is worth less than theirs, and over time, they'll believe it too. But true generosity, it's not about self-sacrifice to the point of depletion. It's about offering support with integrity, in ways that protect your dignity and your well-being. In the chaos of modern life, with its endless emails, family obligations, emotional labor, and societal expectations, learning the Stoic secrets of generosity is no longer optional. It's essential. Why? Because the world is full of people who will take everything you give, and never once stop to ask if you're okay. But here's the truth. It is not their job to set your limits. It's yours. So how do you know when your kindness needs rebalancing? Here's a simple test. If your generosity leaves you feeling drained, unappreciated, or resentful, it's time to reassess. Those who genuinely care about you will accept and respect the boundaries you set. Those who are only there to benefit from you, they may fall away, and that, as difficult as it might feel in the moment, is actually a gift, because this path, the Stoic path, is not about becoming hard or cold. It's about giving wisely, giving to those who deserve it. As Epictetus so powerfully put it, attach yourself to what is spiritually superior, regardless of what other people think or do. This is the essence of modern Stoic kindness. Kindness with backbone. Kindness that stems from inner clarity, not outer pressure. So be kind, but do not seek approval. This is one of the most transformative Stoic lessons you can live by. Too often, kindness becomes tangled with people-pleasing. We think, if I always say yes, if I never make waves, if I stay agreeable, then they'll like me, then I'll be safe. But here's the reality. Approval-seeking is not a virtue. It's a hidden form of fear. When you allow other people's opinions to dictate your self-worth, you hand over your power, piece by piece. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Why do we do that? Why do we twist ourselves into knots, chasing approval, trying to meet expectations that don't even reflect who we truly are?" The answer lies in insecurity. When your kindness comes from a place of fear, when you say yes to avoid conflict, when you suppress your opinions just to keep the peace, people feel it. They may not say it, but they feel it. And instead of respecting you more, they often respect you less. Here's a hard truth wrapped in compassion. People don't admire doormats. They lean on them. True kindness, it doesn't ask for applause. It doesn't crave approval. It stands firm in its values, even if no one claps. Epictetus taught, if you wish to be good, first believe that you are bad. In other words, be radically honest with yourself. Ask, where am I compromising just to be liked? When do I say yes, not out of generosity, but fear? And then shift, correct the patterns, reclaim your self-respect. Because real kindness is not about making others comfortable at your own expense. It's about being rooted in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable for others. Picture this. You're in a meeting. Someone shares an idea you fundamentally disagree with. A people-pleaser nods politely, hides their reaction, and walks away frustrated. But a kind, grounded person, they respond with calm confidence. I see where you're coming from, but I hold a different perspective. That's it. One sentence. But it speaks volumes. It says, I respect you, and I also respect myself. That's the kind of kindness the world truly needs, and that's the kind that earns real respect. You will become resentful, not respected. This is why Stoicism urges us to be intentional about where we place our focus. Seneca once said, associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. That is, don't just protect your time. Protect your energy just as fiercely, because once it's gone, it's not something you can get back with a new planner or a few hours of sleep. Too often, we draw clear lines around our calendar, but not around our hearts. We protect our schedules, but not our sanity. So here's the question. Who are you giving your energy to? And are they returning it or draining it? Imagine two people. One of them is always available. They answer every late-night message. They listen to every complaint. They say yes to every request, even when their own life is falling apart. By sunset, they are hollow, resentful, exhausted. Now picture the second person. They are kind, but not absorbent. They listen, but they don't carry burdens that aren't theirs. They say yes, but only when their cup isn't empty. Which one do you respect more? Here's the truth no one tells you. You don't have to agree to be agreeable. You don't need to say yes to be kind. And you certainly don't need to people please in order to be loved. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have I said yes when my entire body was screaming no? How many truths have I swallowed just to avoid rocking the boat? That quiet erosion of self, it doesn't win you love. It wins you exhaustion, and it slowly chips away at your self-respect. If you want to command respect, start by respecting yourself. The Stoics believed that virtue, not popularity, was the compass of a meaningful life. Virtue means living with courage, wisdom, temperance, and justice. It means choosing what is right, even when it's uncomfortable, even when others don't approve. So the next time you feel your truth rising in your throat, and you're tempted to bite your tongue just to keep the peace, pause. You were not born to blend in. You were not placed here to nod politely at every injustice. You were not made to be agreeable. You were made to be clear, to be strong, to be kind, on your own terms. Kindness is not compliance. It is not an invoice for approval. It is an expression of character. So choose kindness, but don't choose it as a currency to buy love. Choose it because it aligns with who you are. Now, I want to hear from you. What's more important to you? being liked or being respected. Comment below. Respect over approval always if you believe self-worth must come first. Or being liked matters just as much if you feel approval and connection are equally vital. Let's see where you stand, because the more clarity you have around this, the more power you take back. And remember this Stoic truth: your energy is sacred. Guard it as fiercely as you guard your time. If you're constantly on call for everyone else's needs, if your emotional space is filled with other people's problems, expectations, and demands, you'll have no room left for your own life, your own goals, your own growth. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength that includes the power to say, 'No, not today. I hear you, but I can't carry this for you. My peace matters too.'" These are not selfish statements. They are boundaries born of wisdom. They are the foundation of real, lasting respect, something that naturally earns the respect of others. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who will make a better man of you." In today's world, that means surround yourself with people who lift you up, not those who only take without giving back. There is a clear difference between helping someone who genuinely appreciates your kindness and allowing yourself to be drained by those who see you as an easy resource. Modern life is full of energy drains, constant notifications, unnecessary conversations, people who thrive on drama, demands, and negativity. Each time you get pulled into those things, you lose a piece of your own energy. Ask yourself, how many times have you walked away from a conversation feeling worse than when you entered it? How much mental and emotional energy are you giving to things that don't serve your purpose? If you want others to respect you, first respect yourself enough to protect your energy. This doesn't mean cutting off everyone or becoming cold. It simply means knowing when to step back, knowing when to pause, and knowing who deserves your full presence. For example, if a friend only comes around when they need help, but never checks in on you, it's not unkind to start limiting your emotional investment in that relationship. If a colleague constantly brings negativity to the conversation, it's not rude to politely excuse yourself. If social media leaves you feeling drained or distracted instead of inspired, reduce your usage. Not because you're weak, but because you're wise. Strong people aren't the ones who give endlessly. They're the ones who know when to say, "I've given enough." The most respected leaders, thinkers, and mentors never allow their energy to be dictated by the outside world. They choose where to focus. They proactively protect their inner peace. That's why Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Tranquility comes when you stop caring what they say or think or do, and only focus on what you do. And it's in the moment you stop obsessing over what's out of your control that you reclaim your power. Power over your emotions, power over your choices, and most importantly, power over yourself." So what should you do in practice? Set mental boundaries, just like you schedule your time. Choose the conversations you engage in, and know when to stay silent or walk away. Ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Remember, energy, like time, is finite. Give it wisely, guard it fiercely, and invest it only in what truly matters. Because the world respects those who know their worth, and nothing signals self-respect more than reserving your energy for what truly deserves it. Up next is one of the most powerful tools of self-respect, knowing when to walk away. In a society that often confuses kindness with weakness, the ability to step away from toxic dynamics is more powerful than any words. You might be surprised. Many people will test your boundaries, knowingly or unknowingly. They're not always malicious. They're simply testing. Can I get away with this? If you allow disrespect to continue, you're silently sending the message, this behavior is acceptable. But when you choose to walk away from a situation that erodes your dignity, you're not just protecting yourself. You don't just teach others how to treat you, you teach yourself how to value your own worth. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. Your time, your energy, and your peace of mind are among your most valuable assets, and not everyone deserves access to them. Modern Stoicism teaches us to be intentional about where we invest our efforts. There's a fine line between patience and passivity. You may believe you're being resilient by staying in an unfair situation, but in truth, you may be enabling the very behavior that's hurting you. Whether it's a friendship that leaves you drained, a workplace that constantly undervalues your efforts, or a relationship built on imbalance, staying doesn't make you noble. It makes you complicit in your own suffering. True kindness is not about letting others walk all over you. It's about being generous without ever sacrificing your self-respect. Walking away doesn't always mean burning bridges. Sometimes, it simply means choosing to step back from spaces where your worth is not recognized. And often, that's the only way people realize what they've lost. When you show that you're willing to leave if necessary, others begin to treat your presence with the respect it deserves. This isn't about revenge or manipulation. It's about setting a standard for how you expect to be treated. Kindness should never cost you your dignity. As Seneca wrote, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Surrounding yourself with those who uplift you isn't selfish. It's essential to your growth and peace of mind. In today's fast-paced world, where relationships and workplaces often become transactional, it's easy to fall into the trap of overgiving and undervaluing yourself. But the secret of modern Stoicism lies in striking the right balance. Kind, but not naive. Generous, but not exploitable. Compassionate, but never at the expense of self-worth. Walking away, when necessary, doesn't make you unkind. It makes you wise. Those who truly value you will respect your boundaries. Those who don't were never worthy of your kindness in the first place. Life is too short to keep proving your worth to those who refuse to see it. The moment you internalize the truth, you stop chasing approval and start cultivating something far more powerful, inner peace. That's the ultimate Stoic secret to a fulfilling life. Thank you for staying until the very end with Stoic Capsule, the channel for quiet strength, clear values, and emotional depth. If this video resonated with you, please like the video, share it with someone who needs it, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next deep dive into Stoic wisdom for a stronger, wiser life. See you next time. Until then, be kind, stay grounded, protect your peace.